You're listening to Inside Melbourne, the official podcast of the Melbourne Football Club. Proudly presented by Zurich Insurance, ensuring the things you truly love, like this podcast.
Hey D's fans, welcome to Inside Melbourne. My name is Ben Gibson. I'm joined via Zoom by Jake Lieber and Alex Neal-Bullen. Welcome, boys.
Thanks very much for having me.
How you going?
Hopefully this is the last Zoom podcast for a little while. Jake, can you give us an update on what the news from the club has been since Daniel Andrews' update yesterday?
Yeah, to be honest, there probably hasn't been too much, just in terms of obviously the AFL and the club will definitely have to, go with some planning and go away and plan some stuff on the return. And so we haven't got too much, but obviously yesterday was a massive win for footballers and people in general, being able to, see 5 people inside your home and then 10 outside. So it's probably, as much as it's exciting for us as footballers, it probably means that we get to go back to training, but it's equally as exciting for society being able to get outside and see one another.
And there's been a few reports suggesting all players are going to be tested. Do we know if that's happening this week?
I don't know if it's happening, but I would assume that we are going to get tested. The doctor told me that I was going to get tested. So I don't think it's going to be very pleasant. I think it's that, cotton bud, whatever it is, all the way down the back of your throat through your nose. So not looking forward to that. But as long as it gets us back playing and training, then I'll do it.
Nibbler, we've heard we're allowed 10 players training together according to the government, but at this stage the AFL doesn't allow that. Is that a bit frustrating at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. It's frustrating, but you can understand why that's been put in place by the AFL for the health and well-being and also the fairness across the league. So you understand that the teams in different states might have different rules at the moment, but hopefully we can get back to at least groups of 5 to 10 within the next couple of weeks, because I'm hanging out for a bit of group training.
When training does return in those sort of numbers, how does a session look like for you?
How would it? Probably it depends if we're in our line group. So if they've got the forwards, backs and mids, I'm sure you could do specific drills for each line. I'd like to think the forwards would just be kicking goals, and then the mids can do all their ruck craft and the backs can learn to defend.
And do you feel like the next sort of phase of training is going to be really important just for building up that body contact, or is it more so getting a bit of continuity going again?
I think the biggest emphasis will be on our speed, because the game's going to be a lot shorter. The short sprint efforts and the repetitive sprinting will be probably the biggest influence on the playing group. So I'm assuming everyone's done their hard training up until now. We'll definitely just pick up from where we left off, but there'll definitely be an emphasis on the speed.
Now, June 11 has been a date thrown around by a few people of a possible return. That's pretty soon. Do you feel like it's enough time for you guys as a group to get back to where you need to be?
Yeah, speaking on behalf of our footy club, I think we are. I know we've had a massive few weeks at training, and I know from speaking to another few players from other clubs, they kind of had a couple of weeks down straight after the season was put on pause. But I know we've just been going ever since the season stopped. So I think we'll be in a great spot to continue training at a high level.
And no crowds is obviously a big talking point. Jake, you've played on grand final day before. What do you feel like a grand final this year would be like?
Yeah, it's obviously, it doesn't look likely that there's going to be crowds, even if the grand final obviously is going to go ahead. It's going to be pretty crazy, I guess. We got the taste of it in round one. It is definitely a different feeling, I can tell you that. It's almost like a little bit of a intra-club practice match. But yeah, look, I think that if we can bring some happiness and a bit of live sport back to people sitting at home, I think that they would be super excited, and I'm personally excited to hopefully give that to people sitting in their houses. And as much as there's no crowds, hopefully a little bit of live sports brings that happiness to them.
And just on that, there's whispers there could potentially be some fan noises coming through the speakers. What do you guys make of that?
Yeah, well, this is actually funny. Me and Alex are speaking about this because I said that he should have done that round one. So I'm an advocate for it. I think it will be quite funny playing there. But I think Alex isn't a fan of it. He reckons it's a bit corny. So you might have to ask him about that one.
Yeah, it's a bit manufactured.
Yeah.
I want the real live, the atmosphere. People over the fence.
I want Nibs to grab his jumper and do this to the crowd when there's no crowd. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'll still do it if it's necessary.
Was it noticeable that you could really hear your teammates in round one? Like communication was important?
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, as you said, we play at the MCG and, majority of the time there's over 50,000 people there. So for us to then step out onto off the stadium over in Perth and there not really be any boos or anything from the opposition crowd, it was pretty crazy. And as you said, like there was a lot of messaging going from the bench that you really didn't have to, pass through the runner or pass through another player. You could just yell out from the bench and tell someone, whether it was a positioning thing or whether to come off or anything like that. So that is pretty crazy considering that you do normally play in front of big crowds. But I think that that's something that as a footy club, we've been really working on our communication. And we think that it's a really important part to be successful. So hopefully that comes to the forefront when we get back and there's no crowds and we can all hear each other.
One of the positives to come from isolation has been a little bit of a rest for some of the injured boys. I was just chatting to Burjo and he thinks Harley Bird might be ready to go come training, first one back. Is it exciting to see some of those guys back in with the main group?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially for Harley, we've only seen a little glimmer of what he's capable of. To even think he'll be out doing the main training with us, yeah, the whole club and players and staff are very excited for him because he's worked a lot and he has sacrificed a lot moving his family over to Melbourne. So it'll all be well deserved.
Now, Nibbler, you've spent your isolation over in Adelaide, back home with the family. How did that go for you?
Yeah, really good. We spent 5 weeks there. Initially, only thought we'd be there for a week and a bit, me and my partner. And then, ended up being there for 5 weeks, lived out of a suitcase. So it kind of taught me how to live a simple life. Only had a few pairs of shorts, undies and a couple of T-shirts. So I've really shortened down my wardrobe. And that's probably a big thing I've learned over this isolation is you don't need heaps of clothes to get by.
Is it nice, I guess, just having a bit of a change of scenery as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, during this time of year, around this time, you've obviously played a few games. So a lot of your energy is going into football and your focus is always very sharp. But it was kind of good to be able to put that energy into spending time with family. And for me to spend 5 weeks with my family, I only ever get to do that maybe once a year. But for that long period of time, I don't think I've been home for over a month since I was 18 years old. So for me, I got a lot of positive times out of this. And it was just great to get back home and see my family and a couple of my friends that were out and about. So it was good.
And Jake, you had a little getaway last week with your family. Was that you've had a big month or so for your family with a new baby as well? How's that been?
Yeah, it's I was speaking to a lot of people over the last sort of month or so in isolation. I guess for me, it's been a little bit of a win, as much as it's a difficult time for everyone and difficult time for not only the footy club but the wider community. I think that for me, I had a son 12 weeks ago now, so for me, it's just been that perfect timing. I've been able to see things that being in a strict football environment, when you go into training most days, you're playing, you're getting ready. I probably wouldn't have seen a lot of the things that I've been able to see. I've got a bit of a routine at the minute of waking up in the morning, spending an hour or so with him, going to training from 8 till 12, and then from about 12:30 after I have a shower and eat lunch, I'm in full dad mode. So it's going to be really hard, I think, to go back to training for me personally, just worrying about missing out on things that I've probably seen, but just understanding that this is what most dads do when they get back to work and let the mum sort of take over and really bring the kid up, and you're just there to really support her. And for me, it's been amazing to be able to support Jess through this time, because I have seen some times where Jess only gets 2 or 3 hours sleep, and I'll wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and look at her and go, "Oh, how many times did you wake up last night?" I think he only woke up once, and she looks at me and goes, "Oh, no, it was about 5 or 6 times last night." So, and then to be able to let her rest throughout the day, it's been really good. But as you said, to get away to Bright last weekend for 4 or 5 days, it honestly did me the world of good. I thought I was travelling okay, and probably got to me about 5 days before I went away, just sitting at home and doing the same thing over and over, like many of us are. But lucky enough that Jess's grandparents have a holiday house, was able to get away to Bright, spent 5 days there, trained in about 2-degree weather every morning, which was quite fun. But it was amazing. And come back now, I feel really refreshed and ready to go.
And how have you guys found that training from home? I know, Jake, you've been doing a bit with Sammy Wiedemann. Has been manageable, I guess?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been awesome to have Weedo. It's almost that you've got someone that's relying on you to rock up every day. And I know, even just a few days that I sort of went for Bright, just that change of scenery and then that change of just training by myself, I found that it was a lot more difficult probably to get going early on. The first couple of laps is a bit, for me and Sam, we just talk rubbish for the first 2 laps and we just, see what each other have been doing over the past couple of days. And then, it's been awesome to be able to have someone that, definitely relies on you to come to training. But, it's probably the hardest bit is coming home and doing the weights by yourself because you are, having to do your weights by yourself. I'm really lucky that I've got a good setup outside that the club's provided with the weights. But, it's been awesome to be able to have at least one person.
Sammy Wiedemann tracking there, Jakey boy.
Yeah, he's going well, mate.
An update?
Yeah, no, big Sammy Wiedemann, big sexual.
Big sexual.
He's going well. He's looking tanned as ever. I'm not really sure how. I think he's been putting a lot of work into the pipes. So you'll see a couple of veins sort of drift down the biceps. So he's looking quite well. Running stuff's really good. His skills have been elite. Just needs to work on his education, and he sometimes try to explain a drill to me and I just look at him, I don't really know what he's saying. So, we'll work on that when we get back though.
Nibbler, you caught up with Billy Stretch back in South Australia, a good mate of yours. Was that good to see him again?
Yeah, absolutely. That was another highlight, was getting out on the training track down Glenelg, the old breeding ground for us. Have a few sessions with him, and he's flying. He's fit and healthy. Hopefully the sample will be up and running soon and he can try his best to get back into the competition.
Now, speaking of Sammy Wiedemann, he's given me a little bit of insight into you two, and I hear you are just two of the closest people at the club. Inseparable was his word. How close is your relationship?
Yeah, look, I think for us, it was probably straight away. I probably identified someone, at the footy club in Nibs, being a bit of an adventure man. So straight away, for myself, I'm a bit the same. Love getting outdoors. Nibs is a little bit different in terms of he loves surfing. I don't like the deep water. I'm a bit scared of that. So, but we definitely love the greenery outside and just love getting outdoors. So early on, I sort of picked up that relationship, and then probably was last year we decided to go to America together with both of our partners, which was awesome. I think we went for 6 weeks, spent a lot of time together in small little Airbnb, so we got to know each other very, very well. So it was an awesome trip. It's quite funny. You always get to know people a lot more on holidays when you're spending so much time with them. And again, it's probably like this isolation period. It was awesome to be able to train with Nib, but we are quite close. But maybe Weedo's just jealous. Maybe that's why he was saying inseparable.
Yeah, he did say he's been the third wheel a few times. Just talking about that America trip, looked like good fun. What were some of the experiences you had over there? I saw you trained in different universities and footy stadiums, all sorts of things.
Yeah, we were very lucky on that side of things. We got to have a first view of how the colleges facilities work over there, and also we got to go into the UFC headquarters in Las Vegas there. So we did a majority of our training at first-class facilities, and it was probably an eye-opening experience how much room the AFL does have to go with that. Our facilities compared to some of the colleges over there, the colleges would be 5 times the size of Amy Park or even Casey Field. So, yeah, we were very fortunate and we're very thankful we got those opportunities. And even now, like looking back at what the world's going through at the moment, it'd probably be a few years until everything will get back to normal. So that's something I'll look back on and really take a lot of that experience out.
Now, I've heard Gorney refers to you guys as blokes with the old souls. You're both 24. Do you feel like you're older? Are you more mature than 24?
No, I think 24. I'm bang on 24, I feel. Maybe Jake's definitely probably a bit wiser.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I reckon Nibs is bang on 24th, especially with some of the childish jokes that he does around the place. Yeah, myself, I think that, definitely. You just have to look at, my family setup. There's probably not too many 24-year-olds going around with a little baby. But, I think that it's funny. I think football matures you a lot. And I think that a lot of, you even have to look at, some of the young guys we've got, like Tommy Sparrow, James Jordan. Yes, these guys have, childish moments and they love a bit of banter and they watch TikTok and they make TikToks and yes, whatever. But it definitely does make you grow up a lot quicker. You even have to just look at, again, this period. Imagine, a 19-year-old that doesn't really have any maturity or just, a normal 19-year-old on the street probably wouldn't have the self-discipline to be able to, train by himself and, get up most mornings and do the training and everything like that. So I think football matures you, but yeah, I think, Gorney's bang on with me. I am a bit of an older soul.
Something we both had to go through as well, just on that, is we both moved out of home at 18. So Jake obviously went to Adelaide and I left Adelaide to go to Melbourne. So from age 18, we were thrown in the deep end, had to fend for ourselves and really learn the basic skills of life. And that probably fast tracks you to develop into a young man as well. So I don't know about you, Jake, but I'm very glad that I had to be thrown into another state, really learn how to fend for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was probably even to the more extent in terms of I didn't even go to a host family when I went to Adelaide. I just moved straight out by myself with my partner Jess, which was crazy. Having to rent a little a 2-bedroom little apartment in Glenelg in Adelaide. I always tell my brothers now, my brothers are at that period right now of sort of moving out of home and everything like that, and mum and dad are always telling them, make sure you do this, make sure you do that. But I think it's just not, as Alex said, it's not until you actually go through those experiences until you learn, how many times I missed paying my electricity bill or gas bill and you end up having to pay an extra $50, $100, whatever it is. You just look back and you go, that's how you learn, through mistakes. And I tell you right now that the gas bill gets paid as soon as I get it. It gets on the fridge. It gets written paid right across the bill, crossed out, everything like that. So I know that I've paid it. So there's little things, exactly like Alex said, you grow up so quickly having to move out of home.
And just before we go to a little break, can you just show us what's in the background there, Jake? Well, what's on your wall?
Okay, yeah. So we've got a front room in our house that was just sort of my wife called it a meditation room. I only meditated in here once, and I reckon she might have done it twice. So it did it well. But yeah, we've made it into Jace's little playroom. So we've got a little decal on there. Alex just asked me if I painted it, but I definitely didn't paint that. So they're just stickers, and we've got sort of some. I'll show you around the room. We've got some board games over there, little fireplace. And then in the playroom, we've even got bottles of wine just in case that JC doesn't have a good day, and both me and Jess can just get on a few bottles of red and enjoy ourselves. So that's what we've got.
It's come up a treat. We're going to take a short break here, and we'll be back after this with questions from the outer.
Thanks to our co-principal partner and podcast sponsor, Zurich Insurance. For over 100 years, they've been insuring the people and things you truly love. And just like you, they truly love footy and they truly love the D's.
This is Inside Melbourne. We've got questions from the outer, and a lot of these are themed about your moustache, Jake. There is, Lever, why are you persisting with that moustache? Where's the stash? When's the stash going, Jake? Was the moustache a dare from Joe Danaher? Talk us through the story.
Okay, so I guess early on it actually started around the American trip that myself and Alex went on. I just kind of said to myself at the end of the year, I've grown a moustache before, maybe in my second year of AFL, but by then, my facial hair wasn't really my strongest point. So I think that if a gust of wind blew through, it was definitely going to fall off. So I thought to myself, I'll try it again. Left it on for the whole America trip, come back, got some nice feedback, but definitely got some feedback that they didn't really like it. There was a few coaches that really didn't like it, but thought to myself, I'll stick to it. And it probably wasn't until a month or two ago I thought to myself, it was at that point where I go, what am I really going to do with it? And then I remember Jess telling me that she looked at a photo, one of our wedding photos, and it had obviously me without my mustache. And she couldn't believe that was me. And she said that, oh my God, I can't imagine you without a mustache anymore. So that was the point where I said that, gee, I think I'm going to have to keep it. But there's also another little thing that I want to do. I want to wait till Jace grows to about 1 and shave it off and see if he still notices me, or if he's seen some videos on Facebook of, they almost don't really know who their dad is. So I just want to see that, and hopefully it works.
Do you have a close-up view for the viewers at home?
Yeah, we can have a close-up. So. Not bad, is it? Gee whiz.
Pretty solid.
That's probably the first time I've really looked up close, and that's bloody good. I'm happy with that.
Happy with your work. Nibbler, one for you. Cooper wants to know how long you've had your dog for.
My dog. That's the family dog back home. My partner's family dog. Tell Cooper it's been a what's that?
It got a bit of traction on Instagram last week.
Yeah, I know. It's just going viral. He's a good looking dog. He's obedient, and loves dropping a number 2 on a walk though, which I'm not a fan.
Jake,
is it true your dog was part of your wedding party?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I got him a little suit made up. So one of Jess's really good friends, got him a little bow tie and a suit made up. So that was awesome. But yeah, I guess that my dog was. He's my second child, really. It was definitely my first child when I didn't have Jace. But yeah, he does everything with us, take him for a walk every day. It's a great thing to have. Alex loves Nate as well, who's my dog.
I'm the godfather.
He's the godfather, so he always hangs out with him when he comes over. And it's awesome to have a dog. Like, I cannot tell you enough that if you don't have a dog, you should get one, because they really are man's best friends.
Fantastic. Now, this is a good question. Besides not seeing the boys, what's the thing you're missing most about footy?
Ooh. I think, like, for me is, especially with this isolation period, I think that just competing at training, you got to understand that if you're not competitive at AFL level, you don't make it. So there's 45 of us on the list, and we're all competitive, and we just love, playing against each other, training against each other. So I think for me, I always do some one-on-one marking stuff with a couple of boys after training. I guess I just miss stuff like that. Whether that's track taking about 100 marks on me in a row, it doesn't really matter. It's just, I just miss the competitive nature and the banter that always comes with things like that.
Yeah, and I'm very similar with the way the group dynamic goes in footy. Training in pairs at the moment, it's been good, but it's also, you miss the energy that a group can bring to a team, and that's probably the thing I'm going to be looking most forward to getting back to.
Madison's asking what the team might look like in round 2. There's a few boys that, as we touched on, will be coming back from injury. You got your Joel Smiths, Harry Petty, Sam Wiedemann. Any of those boys a chance to crack their way back in, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think that it's definitely going to throw up a new dynamic in terms of the blokes coming back from rehab. You've got guys like, as you said, Joel Smith, Harley Bird, Harry Petty, Cade Chandler's on the way back. These guys are all people that are going to push for spots. And I've spoken about it before, that I don't think we've ever been in a better position in terms of people under the best 22 pushing for spots every week. And that was throughout preseason. The competition for spots for round 1, I guess you always look at it and you go, oh, geez, round 1's going to be a really hard task. But there was literally everyone that had completed the preseason could have played round 1. And I think that's just a great sign for our football club. And I'm super excited to get to round 2. And whatever that looks like, I think that, hopefully that we can compete really hard, play the Melbourne way. And if that ends up being 4 points, then we'll be stoked.
Nibbler, Josh wants to know your advice for training at home. You're someone who's one of the leaders in always the running and the fitness side of things. What are some of your tips?
Big one of mine is getting it done in the morning. So then you get your day in the afternoon. And also probably setting out where you're going to do it and knowing if there's going to be dogs or anyone at the park. We've had probably one training session where we rocked up. I didn't do my homework of the oval, and it was pretty much a dog park. So other than that, probably also having a setup where you can do a gym with a partner, because then you can be a bit competitive, push each other along. There's no more lonely feeling than doing gym by yourself.
This one's a little contest for the two of you. 10 footies kicked in the air. You guys one-on-one. How many does Jake spoil?
Probably all of them, but I get every one of those ground balls.
I like it. But I would have spoiled it so hard it went over the boundary, so it doesn't matter.
Jake, there was a bit of talk after last week's podcast where Maisie was asked who is the better defender, Jake or Stephen, and he laughed that off. What's your response to that?
Yeah, look, I did see this. I knew this was going to come up, and I wasn't impressed, to be totally honest with you. There is a little bit of a running joke that, Lever, you don't play on anyone, you just play free man. But the thing is now, with football, it's 6-6-6. So I am playing on someone, just sometimes I'm in better positions than them, and it probably looks like I'm not playing on anyone. But me and Steve are two different defenders, so for me, if I've got some advice for Steve, if he just wouldn't mind holding out his opponent a little bit more so I can take a little bit, a few more marks other than, his opponents just keep whacking me around the ear hole, that'd be great. So if you can give Steve that advice, that'd be great.
Now, this is a really common question. Lana's asking who's the most annoying teammate and why?
The common answer, I think, is always going to be Christian Petrarca. That's just a ball of energy. But for me, I actually get quite annoyed with little Toby Bedford. He's always that guy that sort of just chirps in all the time. There's an argument going on, and then all of a sudden Toby's there, he chirps in. I reckon I vote for Toby Bedford. I don't know about anyone else, but Toby Bedford's definitely the most annoying.
Your thoughts there, Nibbler?
Definitely not Toby. Toby's a very funny man. Most annoying. Aussie Bradkey. He's he loves to make a gag about you, and because he's a few years younger, a lot of the time I don't understand exactly what he's talking about. So
they speak a different language, those young guys. Seriously. Austin Bradkey, Toby Bedford, Tommy Sparrow, Charlie Spargo, they all speak a different language.
Now, toughest opponent to play on and why? Who have you guys found challenging?
Mine.
You don't have one, Jake, but
mine is Easton Wood from the Doggies. He's just a man mountain, but he's also good on the ground. So always have to be very sharp and very switched on when we're playing the Doggies, because I know he's going to be everywhere.
For me, as you said, I don't really play on anyone, but when I do happen to stand next to someone, I think my toughest opponent ever was probably Josh Bruce. He kicked 6 goals on me in my second game, so that wasn't great. So every time we played St Kilda, now obviously at the Doggies, but every time we played St Kilda, I'd just send Oscar to him. So that's an easy way to get out of that. One
coming through was what your emotions were like for your debut game. So obviously your second game didn't go to plan, Jake, but how about the first?
First game, it was quite emotional, I think, for me. I come off my knee reco in my draft year, and then did probably about 3 or 4 weeks of the preseason leading into round 1, and I knew that I was going to play a few sample games, and I got my confidence up in terms of my sample games. Probably in the first 2 or 3 games, I started playing well, and I think for the next 3 weeks, I went into Phil Walsh's office every day asking him if I was going to play yet or not. Being a little 18-year-old, not really knowing what AFL football was about, I just wanted to play straight away. But in the first game, I think Nibs would be able to attest to this, that it's just it just goes so fast, but you've just got so much energy that I don't know if there's ever been a really bad debut game, because you've just got so much energy, you've got so much adrenaline running through your body that you end up just doing things naturally, and that's what got you to the AFL. Your natural instinct, and it's probably not until that sort of that lull period of between 10 to 15 games where you've played a lot of games, but really important that you continue on. But it's definitely it was quite amazing.
Nibbler, I saw yours was the game where Montagna kicked that winner, 2-point loss to St Kilda. That was a tough one.
That was I was thrown in the deep end straight away with that game. I remember running on, started on the bench, ran on. There was a contest near the wing, and I just ran past, getting in my position, and Nick Rewalt has just come up and just chested me, shoved me in the chest, and I was like, oh, here I am, I'm playing AFL. How good is this? And then obviously that last 2 minutes of the game, we just lost. But the best thing about that was we came back the next week down Geelong, down the freeway, and we beat them first time in many years. So it's funny. My first 2 games, I had the thoughts of, geez, footy can be so harsh. But then at the same time, then the following week, if you do the hard work, yeah, you can be on top of the world. So yeah, my first 2 games is probably how I see my first debut season, if that makes sense. My first 2 games, I got the best of both worlds. So that's probably taught me a lot about where we even are at the moment with the footy club.
I had a look into your first year, Nibbler. You played that last game of the season as sub. What was it like being a sub? I haven't heard many people talk about that.
I absolutely hated it. There was no worse rule in footy, especially how Melbourne did it. We wouldn't find out until you rocked up into the room. So I remember walking in. I thought, I can't make eye contact with Roosie because he'll tell me. So I remember walking in one day. I walked in straight away. Roosie's there as you're walking in the rooms. I'm like, Roosie, how you going? I've just kept walking past him. I've got past him. Oh, I'm not the sub. How good's this? Take 5 more steps and he goes, oh, Nibs, come over here, mate. Yeah. So you'll be starting as a sub today. And I'm just smiling, but in my head, I'm like, you are kidding. So yeah, there was no worse feeling in footy than getting subbed out of the game, probably, which I never did.
Yeah, that would be.
I was always subbed on.
Now, Jake, there's a bit of talk about your Spotify playlist, a bit of country music. You had 50 songs on there. How long did it take to come up with that?
Not too long, because I already had that playlist. That's my go-to, the country music playlist. And again, it probably started from my wife, and the same as Alex's partner, Georgie. They're obsessed with TV shows, and just really, I would say, bad TV shows. You know, they're massive fans of the Kardashians and shows like Bachelor in Paradise and things like that. Like, these things are just, you know, for myself and Alex, we're not really into it, but both of our partners are. So it's a bit hard not to watch it sometimes. And Jess went through a stage of really loving American Idol. And she had a bit of a crush on Luke Bryan, who I end up then having a man crush on. So it did sort of transform me. And when we went to America, we went to Nashville and we got to watch him live. And then we just went to a few bars and just listened to country music, and it sort of really turned me. And now that is literally all I listen to. It's quite amazing, from a person who, used to love, not used to, because I still do love Post Malone, but just used to listen to Post Malone all the time. Now to listen to country music, it is quite amazing, but I just love it.
Couple of last questions before this Zoom call expires. What are your thoughts on a 17-round fixture in the future? Obviously, we're going to get a taste of it this year. Do you guys like that? Or
my personal view is the endurance of the footy season is what I love about it. So you have weeks where you feel like you're down in the dumps, or you feel weeks where you're on top of the world. You want to keep it going with the momentum. So for me, what is it? A 23-week season is perfect, because you get to ride all the bumps, the lows and the highs. So yeah, I'm up. If they want to discuss it, we're here, but I'm still keen for it to stay the same.
It's also 5 less games for fans to watch as well. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're taking away the best thing about footy, which is the weekends when we're out there playing.
Yeah, well, it's really 5 times, 9 games. So it's 45 games less each year. You know, you play each other twice or whatever it is. I totally agree with Alex. I think it should definitely stay the same. And it's probably just more, I think that the AFL players, and definitely probably this period, will really prove, whether that we really need that long of a pre-season. I think that's going to be a massive talking point in terms of going into next year. As players, I know personally that as much as pre-season's awesome and you get to get really fit and everything like that, you probably sort of start peaking at around January, and then you're trying to just hold. And I know that there is a lot of injuries that happen between that January and sort of March stage of when we start the season. So I think that's probably more the talking point in terms of how long the pre-season is. It's funny. When we went on the America trip and we told, some of the people that are in college football, college basketball, these types of sports, we told them how long our, pre-season or training camps, as they call it over there, were. And they could not believe how long we trained for, and how many weeks. And it's basically the same amount of weeks as, the season, or just a little bit less. So I think that's probably going to be the next talking point in terms of how long the preseason is rather than how long the season is. Because as you said, I think fans love going to the footy every week. And if you're going to take 5 games from each football club away, then it's just too much. And, I just love the highs and lows of the season.
And just finally, one from Simon. He's asking, are you looking forward to the 2021 season, as this season will be one big practice game? I think we'd strongly disagree with that. Do you feel like there's just as much to gain out of this year than any?
It'd be pretty cool to reflect and say, I remember when COVID-19 was on, we actually were the team that adapted best and we won the flag. Although there will be an asterisk, there's no given that there won't be something against the flag this year, but I still want to win. We're athletes, we're competitive, and we want to win.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. Thanks very much for your time, boys. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we're back at Casey next week.
Love it.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Benny.
This has been Inside Melbourne, proudly brought to you by Zurich.